All right, ladies and gentlemen, please direct your attention to the stage and welcome our host for the evening. She's the morning news anchor on WDIV Local 4 and the president and founder of the Rhonda Walker Foundation. Let's welcome Rhonda Walker.
Well, hello, everyone. So good to see all these familiar faces. Good evening and welcome. Thank you so much for being here for this special occasion tonight. It is my honor to serve as your mistress of ceremony for this very important evening. So good evening and thank you. Welcome to the Charles H. Wright Museum of African American History, our beautiful gem here in Midtown. Yes. So tonight, Fritz Pollard Alliance will pay homage to its namesake, who was a progressive figure in the annals of American sports and American history. To the casual observer, Fritz Pollard's name may not match the familiarity of a Tony Dungy or a Jim Brown or a Jackie Robinson, but the impact of his contributions and the historic nature of his accomplishments are foundational to the modern day nature of sports, despite his relative anonymity. He shattered myths and defined Black excellence in a way that remains as relevant today as it did more than a century ago. He was a standard bearer, a fearless competitor, and a pioneering force in athletics and beyond. Fritz Pollard's intellect and understanding of the game of football led the Akron Pros of the National Football League to name him the team's head coach all the way back in 1921, making Pollard the NFL's first African American to serve as a head coach. A lot of people don't know that history. As I juxtapose a Black man carrying a pigskin in a violent sport as the first Black player in the NFL while taking unimaginable cheap shots and verbal abuse from the non-Black opposition, you must ask why. And the answer is clear. He wanted to accomplish something which seemed impossible. Tonight's event is Fritz Pollard's Alliance. It's a way of acknowledging the 100th anniversary of Pollard's coaching milestone while celebrating the excellence and essence of this man. 100 years. Tonight we are also, let's go, Marvin. Tonight we will also honor two individuals who embody Fritz Pollard's transcendence. Four-time All-Star World Series champ with the Detroit Tigers, Mr. Willie Horton. We are honoring him with a well-deserved humanitarian award. And also Mr. Wallace Triplett with the Trailblazer Award posthumously. In addition, we will recognize the Detroit Lions as America becomes more diverse. Corporations, well, I shouldn't say that, because America's always been diverse. We're just incorporating a little more diversity where it should be. Corporations must mirror that evolution, and they are. And the Detroit Lions are an example of that. They are an organization that is leading the way with its recent hiring of diverse executives in the front office. And we will honor the team this evening with our Diversity and Management Award. What a worthy group of honorees tonight. But tonight's festivities would not be possible without the generous donations from our sponsors, which I would like to acknowledge. You can hold your applause till after, unless it's your company, and I get it. You want to give a shout out. Our championship sponsor, the Piston Group, led by Vinnie Johnson. Thank you so much for all you do. Our MVP sponsor, the National Association of Minority Automobile Dealers. Our overtime sponsors, the Brinker Group, Chemico Group, and Seal, LLC. And to our halftime sponsors, the Detroit Pistons, Greektown Casino, Illich Charities, Mag Solutions, Hot Sam's, and Viz Safe Incorporated. Round of applause to all of our sponsors. Tonight's gathering is also made possible by the committed people who led the Fritz Pollard Alliance, an organization founded in 2003 by attorneys Cyrus Mary and the late Johnny Cochran Jr. The Fritz Pollard Alliance is an advocacy organization that pushes for equal employment opportunities for scouts, for coaches, for general managers, and other leadership positions within the NFL and other professional sports. The Alliance plays a consequential role in ensuring that qualified candidates of color receive a fair shot at maximizing their potential as part of America's most popular sport. To all of those responsible for tonight's event, we say thank you. And a round of applause. We have an incredible program ahead of us. I think you're going to be very inspired and touched tonight. But before we get started, we want to kindly ask you to refrain from recording tonight's festivities, either in video or audio form. And that has been asked of me to ask of you. So if you could please comply, we would appreciate it. Here to give the invocation, because we must lead this occasion in prayer, please welcome to the stage the senior pastor of Triumph Church, one of the nation's fastest growing churches right here in Detroit, in the metro Detroit area, Reverend Solomon Kinlock, Jr.
Truth forever on the scaffold, wrong forever on the throne. In the dim unknown stands God in the shadow, keeping watch over his own. I cannot help but to be cognizant and clear that regardless of where we live, those of us that know that we are woven out of the same fabric of compassion and of grace, humanity, have to pause after we witness such a horrific scene in Oxford this week. Before we move, as the saints of old would say, another further, can you partner with me in a moment of silence and prayer for the children, the family of Oxford, and also our land? Eternal God, our Father, we pause because we're grateful. We thank you for granting us a gift that no other competitor provides, the blessing, the enjoyment of another day. But Lord, we are also clear that while we are praising, there are people in pain, that while we are shouting, there are people suffering, that while we got a reason to dance, others are approaching this season with depression and despondency because of death. And we come now because we got sense enough to know we don't have to send you anywhere, but we just pray and petition that while you're there, that you do what no other power but your power can do. Touch. Touch not only there, but touch everywhere. Lord, we thank you tonight for the mass of energy, effort, and advocacy that has gone into creating this moment. But as we stand here to honor the past, celebrate the present, and stand in tiptoe expectation of the future, we are cognizant and clear that we can't do it without your power nor your presence. So in the flesh we confess, Lord, not we but thee. Touch this moment. Baptize it with your spirit. Let our conduct, our conversation, the way we talk and the way we walk, with our lips and our life, be done in such a way where we give glory, majesty, and honor to your name. In the mighty, matchless, and majestic name of our Lord and Savior, Jesus, we pray. Let the people say together, amen.
I always like to clap after the invocation. So some people say, you don't do that, but I do, because I am always grateful to be in the presence. So thank you so much, Reverend Kinlock. I'd also like to bring up to the podium, as we are standing in this beautiful museum, and invite our chairman of the board of this great edifice, Mr. Eric Peterson.
Well, first of all, good evening. You know, on behalf of the Charles H. Wright Museum of African American History and our president and CEO, Neil Barclay, we welcome you and thank you for being here and taking the time to spend the evening with us. Even though we're celebrating 100 years in regard to Mr. Pollard, we're only 56, so we're a little young. But the key part is we're all aligned in what we're trying to accomplish. You know, our focus from the vision of our leader, our founder, was to educate our children, to teach them about their history so that they could be proud and they could communicate, and so that we could make this a better place. We're proud to say that on an average year, we host over 20,000 high school, grade school children every year. We host that many to bring in and teach them about the African American culture, but it's about our culture. And we're so pleased to be able to be a part of that. And that's one thing that aligned us with the Fritz Pollard Alliance Foundation, is that they're helping others. They're reaching out. They're providing opportunities. They're showing people that there's other ways. So on behalf of our museum, we welcome you, we thank you, and enjoy the evening. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Eric. As I mentioned at the outset, the Fritz Pollard Alliance is focused. Its focus is in part on ensuring that qualified candidates of color receive equal access to leadership opportunities within the NFL. The organization has made great strides in this area since its inception, and to hear more about the Alliance's purpose, I'd like to welcome to the stage its Executive Director, Mr. Rod Graves. Keep your applause glowing while he makes his way across the stage. Hi, pleasure to meet you.
My pleasure. Thank you. Thank you for a wonderful job, Brenda. And Reverend, the invocation was special. And Mr. Peterson, we really appreciate the opportunity to use your venue to really put on an event like this. So often I found myself over my career, and I've been in the National Football League, or was in the National Football League over 37 years, I always seem to find myself following people who are such eloquent speakers. And I'm trying to hopefully I can present tonight in such a way that will keep in the spirit of what you guys are doing here in this wonderful community. On behalf of the Fritz Pollard Alliance Foundation, I want to welcome our honored guest and esteemed guest tonight, and all of you from near and afar who have supported the mission of the Fritz Pollard Alliance. We are working to strengthen communities. We are working to improve opportunities in the workplace for men and women of color and other minorities. We are attempting to nurture the growth of leadership for tomorrow's leaders, and we are working to recognize and inspire achievement. Brenda touched on some of the accolades and the life of Fritz Pollard, but the things that I just mentioned are really comprise the legacy of a great man, a great leader, and one who has inspired our efforts throughout. But we'll talk more about Fritz Pollard a little bit later. Tonight we want to celebrate and recognize the achievements that are done right here in your very community. and we're proud to be associated with it. And we just thank you for all of those who are here tonight and those who have supported us all along the way. Let's have a great evening. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rod. Another round of applause for our executive director. At this time, we would like to show a video to you as well that really gives you a better understanding of the history of Fritz Pollard.
At the bottom, down, down, I'm gonna stay long gone, but I don't know if I'll make it back home. I'm at the bottom, long gone.
I went to Cleveland, Ohio to finish my senior year in dental college. And they came to me about playing pro football. And they made me a pretty good offer. So I finally went out with Akron and began playing pro football.
Probably would be not known by too many individuals in America today, but he was one of the greatest running backs that ever lived. America's a young country. It's a great country, but it wasn't always a country for everybody. The derogatory comments, the unfairness, all of these things he had to endure. The NFL would not be proud of the way that Fritz had to break down the taboos and perform. And so we try to put behind us those things that don't make the country look good. But I think by recognizing the things that happened to him and how he overcame them can be an inspiration, not only to the African Americans, but to people at large.
Well, if you talk about respect having to be earned, I mean, every drop of it had to be earned if you were black and trying to lead white men at that point in our history as a country. You know, you think about how daunting that must have been. I mean, we were only a few decades after the Civil War when the country wasn't even sure it wanted to allow black soldiers to fight for a black soldier. So for a coach like Fritz Pollard, who did not have physical stature, we're talking about somebody who was like 5'7", 150, 160 pounds tops, to come in and command, that was just an extraordinary thing. When you think about the lack of sort of support resources that Fritz Pollard had in the 1920s, it's unthinkable.
In the fall of 2002, the late Johnny Cochran and I put out a report, Black Coaches in the NFL, Superior Performance, Inferior Opportunities. That triggered this whole movement and brought all this national attention on this issue. And had a deep study with statistics and showed that the black coaches were actually winning more often, the few that had the opportunities, went to the playoffs twice as often, but then had fewer opportunities. We started to challenge the National Football League to do better when it came to hiring minority coaches, general managers, scouts, you know, throughout all the organizations.
Now, there's plenty of men and women that have been an intricate part for the advancement of colored people.
Right.
Why name the alliance in Fritz's honor?
I had happened to read a little bit about Fritz Pollard and realized he was a sensational African-American player in the 1920s. And so I'm like, well, why not reclaim the history? We had a meeting at the Combine. I thought we'd get 10 people to show up, but they came by the dozens.
Wow.
And it was standing room only. We barely had enough room. And these are the minority coaches, the scouts. They all wanted to hear about this movement and be part of it. And John Wooten, the all-pro lineman with the Cleveland Browns and best friend with Jim Brown, was kind of the spiritual leader. And what I pointed out is for this movement to last, it needs an affinity group of minority coaches, scouts, and so forth. And when I said that, the first reaction was, heads are going to roll. Terry Robisky, to his credit, stood up and said, if heads are going to roll, let my head roll. And then Ted Cottrell stood up, the defensive coordinator. He said, if heads are gonna roll, let my head roll. One by one,
wow.
Everybody stood up and said, we've got to get behind this. And Coach Dungy said, Cyrus has a plan, let's get behind it. And once that happened, the concept was formed.
Walk us through the Rooney Rule and how it came to be.
It came to be really, a conversation was started, early 2000s, and it really was about the fact that there were very few minorities being given opportunities to coach in the league. An attorney named Cyrus Mary and Johnny Cochran started to talk to Commissioner Tagliabue and said, what's going on here? This isn't right. Commissioner Tagliabue formed an owners committee and made my father the chairman of the committee. And the result was the Rooney Rule, which requires that each team that has a head coach opening interview at least one minority candidate for an open position. And it's evolved somewhat from there, but that was the beginning.
He was one of the greatest pioneers that ever lived and had the ability to move things forward. He's a hero, and he's not a hero just to black people. He's a hero to America and to Americans and to the world.
What he stood for was excellence at its highest. He was the first black player at Brown University, an Ivy League school. He was the first black head coach. He was the first black player in the National Football League. He was the first black quarterback. In spite of the difficulties back during that period, he was able to achieve at a high level. He served his country. He was a successful businessman off the field, away from football. That reason demonstrates to me that if you put your mind to it, in spite of the obstacles that you may face, that you can achieve excellence. And that, to me, is the legacy of Fritz Pollard.
I told you you'd be inspired. Now, how many of you truly knew that story? How many of you truly knew this story? It is remarkable, and more people need to know about it. It's just incredible, and no better person to name this organization after. Just an incredible legacy that we should all be educated on. So, during these politically charged times, you must have moral leadership in Washington, D.C. And Michigan is very fortunate to have two great senators, Debbie Stabenow and Gary Peters. They have a combined 27 years of experience in our nation's capital, and we remain grateful to their steadfast service. Neither could be present here this evening, but they delivered letters of acknowledgement. I will read those to you after. We do have a very special member that represents our great area in Washington. We are honored to have Congresswoman Brenda Lawrence present with us tonight. Congresswoman Lawrence. She is in her 4th term in Washington, where she represents Michigan's 14th congressional district, and we appreciate her steadfast commitment and representation. She has not let us down. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Congresswoman Lawrence.
I want to say good evening. It is such an honor to be here. It's an honor to be around people who understand that the greatest honor in life is to walk in the shadow of greatness of those who came before them. And tonight we're assembled here because of the greatness of a man that we're honoring his legacy by taking action. Good evening. I'm Congresswoman Brenda Lawrence. I represent Michigan's 14th District. And tonight we honor Fritz Pollard's Alliance 100th year anniversary. And for nearly exactly 100 years ago, Fritz Pollard became the first black head coach. And even though he broke the glass ceiling a century ago, there are only 3 currently black coaches in a league where 58% of the players are black. I want to say today that we must never rest on our accomplishments. While you saw that documentation of the amazing accomplishments, and we can only imagine the struggles and the barriers that he had to overcome to achieve so much in a time where everything was built to suppress and to keep him down, that today we have an opportunity. There's only 3. And I want you to know that I stand here today, and this is just relevant for me at this moment, being in the African American Museum. I'm the only African American representative of Congress for the state of Michigan. So while that you applauds, I just want you to know that representation means something. Through education, mentorship, and advocacy, the Alliance is working to reshape the NFL into a league that reflects the diversity of the players and its viewers. It's no better time to witness the fruits of the labor, of their labor, than right here in Detroit, Motown. And we know that Detroit professional sports teams have been at the forefront of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And tonight I want to acknowledge the 3 men that we are honoring here today. Willie Horton is just like a household name. It's like your cousin. Everybody knows him, remember him, and respect and honor you. And then you went on to use your skills as a team executive. Wallace Triplett, the first black player drafted to the Detroit Lions, and the entire Lions organization for your commitment to hiring diverse executive leadership. And I took a moment to thank the leadership of the Detroit Lions, and thank you, because when I served as mayor, when I needed help in my community, they were there. They showed up. And yes, we want those Lions to win, please. But please know that all the great things that you're achieving by touching and supporting the community and reflecting that through your leadership does not go unnoticed. So we want to say thank you tonight. And I want to end this message to those who are impacting the students of the Fritz Pollard Academy, where you're touching the young lives of so many children. And the greatest thing that we can do is allow a child to dream without barriers. Allow them to see what they could never imagine. Present to them the opportunities, and to make them understand that they are walking in the shadows of greatness of many before them. I just want to end tonight by saying I'm bringing this proclamation from Congress. That's where I'm the baller here tonight. I can say that I, Brenda Lawrence, a member of the U.S. House of Representatives, do hereby proclaim the Fritz Pollard Alliance Foundation as an organization of distinction. On behalf of the United States of America, I salute you for your many, many years of faithful service in celebrating 100 years. I do this with honor and respect, and also with this being our call to action to continue to work. Thank you all, and enjoy the evening.
Rod? It's a nice photo op for our photographer. Wait, don't go yet. Walk a little slower. Just a little picture. While they're taking a picture, thank you very much, Congresswoman Lawrence, for taking the time to be with us tonight. Our Lieutenant Governor is traveling today. Actually, I mentioned I would get back to the letters from Senators Stabenow and Gary Peters, and I'll start with Senator Stabenow. This is to the attendees tonight. She says, thank you for the opportunity to participate in the 100th anniversary celebration of Fritz Pollard. This event is an important celebration of the life and legacy of Fritz Pollard, the first black NFL head coach, and the impressive work of the Alliance and its foundation. Congratulations to Willie Horton and the late Wallace Triplett and the Detroit Lions Incorporated, who are being honored in this event. These are well-deserved recognitions of their contributions to diversity and inclusion in professional sports. I know this event involved incredible hard work and planning, and I applaud the efforts of those that made it possible. I hope that you have a memorable celebration, and that is from, sincerely, Senator Debbie Stabenow. And from Gary Peters, whose letter is a little bit longer, bear with me. Dear friends, I am pleased to join the Fritz Pollard Alliance Foundation in welcoming you as we commemorate the 100th anniversary of the first African-American NFL head coach, Frederick Fritz Pollard, as well as honor other iconic legends who have made a significant impact in the field of sports. Founded in 2003 with a mission to further foster diversity in the NFL, the Fritz Pollard Alliance continues to push for diversity at every level of sports organizations. And tonight we celebrate memory and legacy of Fritz Pollard, who made history in 1921 when he was named co-head coach of the Akron Pros, while maintaining his roster positions as a running back at the same time. We also celebrate the legacy and memory of Wallace Triplett, the first African-American drafted player to play in the NFL game and who played for the Detroit Lions in 1950. Pollard and Triplett showed the tenacity and drive needed to succeed in professional sports. They are true trailblazers, and that same drive pushes the leaders of today. I am also pleased to recognize this evening's honorees for their own commitment to diversity, inclusion, and equity in today's world of sports. The Detroit Lions have continued a commitment to a diverse organization with their current leadership recognized as one of the most diverse front office and coaching staffs in the NFL. They led a true example of other sports organizations. Additionally, we recognize the acknowledgement of Willie Horton, a Detroit Tiger legend, one of our local heroes and a trailblazer himself as the first African-American to serve as a special assistant to the president, CEO, general manager of a sports organization in Detroit. Once again, I appreciate the opportunity to join you and members of the Fritz Pollard Alliance in welcoming you to the celebration. I wish you all a memorable event and look forward to our continued work together toward a more diverse, inclusive future for professional sports. Signed, Senator Gary Peters. Now I want to get to our Lieutenant Governor, who is traveling today, but offers his support with an insightful video.
Good evening. I am Lieutenant Governor Garland Gilchrist, and I am honored to welcome you all to tonight's 100th anniversary event commemorating Fritz Pollard's ascension as the NFL's first black head coach. It is not hyperbole to say that Fritz Pollard was one of the most courageous and trend-setting figures in American history. 100 years ago, in 1921, despite the racial torment of the time, valiant individuals like Fritz Pollard pursued success. Mr. Pollard moved forward with an audacious mindset, with a clear-eyed purpose that nothing would stand in his way. Today, we stand on the shoulders of giants like Fritz Pollard, a bold and unflinching figure who showed us that we are only limited by our imagination, that external forces are overcome by a true sense of self. We thank Fritz Pollard for his example and all that he stood for, and may his life and his legacy serve as a blueprint for how we move with grace and dignity in an often challenging world. To our honorees this evening, Mr. Willie Horton, thank you for your indomitable spirit that energizes all of us to pursue excellence. To Wallace Triplett, a football legend who refused to accept no for an answer because he knew he was blazing a trail. And to the Detroit Lions, thank you for the diversity of your executive leadership. You are building a sound foundation for the future. I hope you all leave the Charles H. Wright Museum tonight with a fervent desire to cross-examine America through an objective prism that beckons the true meaning of our history. Thank you and good night.
Truly powerful words from our Lieutenant Governor. And we also have our next speaker here in the House with us tonight, Michigan's 43rd Secretary of State. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome one woman that's been very busy in her tenure as our Secretary of State, the Honorable Jocelyn Benson.
Thank you, Rhonda, and thank you all for being here tonight. I wanted to come by because some of you may know, I don't know how many of you do, but this is, I think, my 7th or 8th Fritz Pollard Alliance event. And so I want to say thank you to the Alliance. Rod, thank you for being here, and it's so good to see you, for honoring our hometown team, the Detroit Lions. And thank you, Willie Horton, for being a representation of how sports can be not just the great equalizer in our society, but a unifying force at a time when we need it. And many people, when we hear of those honored tonight, like Mr. Horton, think of the great feats as we think of with Fritz Pollard on the field and the championships that were brought to their hometowns as a result. But I and so many others think about the unifying forces that sports figures like Mr. Horton and so many others, Craig Monroe here tonight, and others brought in, bringing communities together at a time when we are uniquely divided. And no time more than now are we more divided. Now, as the State Secretary of State, as you all know, I oversee elections, I oversee democracy. Prior to that, I started my career in Montgomery, Alabama, investigating hate groups and hate crimes throughout the country. And what I saw then, and what we know now, is that race is the most divisive element in our society. And racism and structural racism is something that we all have a responsibility to eradicate. Democracy, the vote, is the strongest force, as well as education, in fighting through the eradication of structural racism. But what I later learned working in sports and running an organization called RISE, the Ross Initiative in Sports for Equality, was that sports has the power and the ability to bring people together to be engaged, not just in supporting and cheering for those who represent us on the field, but in working to ensure that we use our voices, our votes, our education to empower others to seek equality off the field as well. And it is our sports heroes, whether it be Mr. Pollard, whether it be Mr. Horton, whether it be Craig Monroe, whether it be the Lions, whether it be of all those who've come before us, from Jackie Robinson to Muhammad Ali, who fought and represented the best of us in fighting down to break barriers of structural racism that have held us back, all of us back as a society. So tonight we celebrate those local heroes, those local organizations who have been at the forefront for years of bringing us together and fighting for a better community. And that's what the Fritz Pollard Alliance represents as well. So I'm proud to welcome you here. Finally, this is the first Fritz Pollard event that I've gotten to attend here in Detroit, but also to thank you for honoring our local heroes, knowing that in doing so, you embolden all of us to keep fighting against structural racism, fighting to dismantle the racism that's held us back as a society, fighting to ensure everyone has a right to vote, fighting to ensure everyone has the right to be safe in their schools and safe and have accessible, safe education opportunities. And I know I and so many of you've already heard tonight, and so many here, will really, I hope, leave tonight with a reinstilled, inspired commitment to keep doing that work in the months and years ahead, because we need to right now if we are going to overcome this divisive moment and seek a better tomorrow for all. So thank you.
This woman is amazing. Thank you so much, Jocelyn, for taking the time to be here and for all the hard work that you have been doing as it relates to equality and fairness. She is an amazing representative for all of us, and we are so thankful for her leadership, and for her focus and her passion. Our next speaker, and that would be, since 2005, our next speaker has worked tirelessly as part of the Detroit City Council, which she has led as its president since 2014. Please give a warm applause to Detroit City Council President Brenda Lawrence. Brenda Jones, who is going to be retiring at the end of the year. She's smiling big about that. We're not ready. Good to see you.
Thank you so much for that introduction. Let me just say Brenda Lawrence is a very good friend of mine, and so I don't mind. I've been called some of everything, so to be called Brenda Lawrence is an honor. Let me just say also, I am so pleased to have been invited here today by my good friend, John Graves, to present an official City of Detroit Award of Recognition. Probably one of my last ones, and I am smiling. As December 31st is my official last day. 16 long, hard years. A lot of changes in the city of Detroit in 16 years. But it's truly an honor for me to be here this evening to present this award of recognition in honor of a trailblazer in the world of professional football, Coach Fritz Pollard, who was the first black head coach in the NFL. With a name like Frederick Douglass Pollard, you could say he was destined for greatness, and Fritz didn't disappoint. He was the first black ball player at the Ivy League Brown University. Fritz became one of 2 black players to be the first to play in the NFL. Later, he rose to the rank of coach, breaking a ceiling and blazing a path for other blacks like Tony Duncan and Mike Tomlin, both Super Bowl winners, Dennis Green and Detroit's own Jim Caldwell, to name a few. Coach Pollard was a true Renaissance man who stood on his own talent, skills, and reputation. He played for and coached several colleges and professional football teams. He also founded his own team and created several business endeavors, such as a talent agency, a tax consultant firm, and a film and music production company. It was so fitting to name the alliance, which seeks to promote hiring of minorities within the NFL after him. The alliance seeks to advocate for diversity, better opportunities, and hiring practices for minorities, not only for players, but also referees and front office personnel. So, I am pleased to present this award on behalf of over 650,000 Detroiters. Please continue to work on our behalf and make us proud by standing strong for our people. I have the Detroit City Council Award of Recognition presented to the Fritz Pollard Alliance Foundation 100 years later. Council President Brenda Jones and the Detroit City Council presents this award to the Fritz Pollard Alliance Foundation in recognition of the 100th anniversary celebration of the first NFL African American head coach, Fritz Pollard. We commend your organization's commitment to diversity, inclusion, and equity in the sports industry. We join you to honor 2 iconic legends for their significant contributions in the field of sports. Wallace Triplett, posthumous, the first African-American drafted player to play in an NFL game, and Willie Horton, my hero, a Detroit Tiger and the first African American to serve as a special assistant to the president, CEO, general manager of a Detroit sports organization. We also take this opportunity to acknowledge the Detroit Lions for their diverse hiring and the team's current leadership. Congratulations to the Fritz Pollard Alliance Foundation for fulfilling your mission to honor those whose lives have embodied the strength, determination, and will to change the course of history for generations to follow. Best wishes for continued success, signed by all of my colleagues.
Another round of applause for City Council President Brenda Jones. And a little louder for her service on City Council for 16 years. The pioneering efforts of Fritz Pollard in the NFL are not lost on those who followed in his footsteps. I want to pause for a short video to hear from a few of them and their appreciation.
I want to thank the great Fritz Pollard for creating the opportunity for me and other black coaches to have the privilege of following in his footsteps and become coaches in the National Football League. Through his persistence as a player and coach, he set the table for us to one day become coaches in the league. I had not heard of Mr. Pollard until 1979. In 1979, the Raiders and the Cowboys were going to play in the annual Pro Football Hall of Fame game. Our head coach, Tom Flores, allowed us to view the museum the night before the game. While viewing the Hall of Fame history, I came upon a small video machine that had a button on it. I pushed this button, and there was a black football player, 1920, by the name of Fritz Pollard. I couldn't believe it. 1920. I was so excited, I must have pushed that button 100 times. I called my teammates over, both black and white, to come over and see the black player from 1920. We never knew there were black players during that time. Mr. Pollard made sure history recognized the impact that black players and coaches made during that era. Thank you, Mr. Pollard, for your leadership. Your legacy lives on through all of us who have walked the path that you have blazed.
100 years ago, we had coaches in the National Football League, and we had a minority coach, Fritz Pollard. He's being honored here today, as he is every year at this time, for being a coach, a minority coach, and player. Who would have thought 100 years ago that we would be where we are today? Football is such a big sport, professional football, the National Football League, and Fritz Pollard's name is right up there with all of the greats of the past.
I can't thank you, the committee, enough for giving me this great honor, but rest assured, my heart is on the fighting lines to make sure that the NFL continually moves forward and being a great asset, not only to the National Football League and its players, but to the opportunities that we want to give to everyone to make the NFL a great place to play and a great place to work.
Two intelligent and forward-thinking lawyers founded the Fritz Pollard Alliance in 2003. The late Johnny Cochran Jr. and Cyrus Mary, both of whom have served as co-lead counsel in some of the largest and most significant criminal race and gender-based cases in the United States. Let's acknowledge one of the founders, Mr. Cyrus Mary, with this video.
This is Cyrus Mary, co-founder of the Fritz Pollard Alliance. I really appreciate everyone being part of this program today and the ongoing commitment that all of you have, the Fritz Pollard Alliance, its mission, and the good work that we do to be both a moral voice for the NFL community and create opportunities for deserving people in the NFL community. So this has been an extraordinary year in so many ways. I have to give a shout out to all of the leadership and all the clubs and the league office that miraculously all the games were played this year. NFL fans could unite at a time when maybe in some ways the country was divided. We could unite as NFL fans and to have a successful playoff season and had the most diverse coaching staff in NFL history be part of a Super Bowl champion team. So shout out to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Coach Arians. I just want to say that this has been a movement. I've been blessed to be part of it. It's been a privilege to be part of it. We could not have had a better namesake for our organization than Fritz Pollard, who was a Renaissance man of his time, overcame vitriol and vicious attacks on him to be one of the most sensational players of the 1920s, and was so impressive as a leader and someone who understood the game that the owners of the Akron Pros made him the first head coach in pro football history in 1921, right after he led them to a championship, the first ever championship 100 years ago. And he also created high standards among his teammates. And when sadly the NFL, during that highly divisive decade, quietly kicked out all black players out of the game, he went on to be a force in trying to create black, Negro football clubs, as well as a force in the music industry and entertainment in Harlem. And he also continued to be a leader and being grateful to all the people that shoulders he stood on. But most importantly, for decades, we've been standing on his shoulders. So right now, I feel like looking back, we could not have picked a better person to name the organization after. But as I look at where we are now, we've overcome a lot of barriers just by getting people of color in the interview process, by expanding the Rooney Rule to not only GM, but to other top football positions, and this last year for coordinator positions, and that we've seen more diversity in so many ways, including women breaking barriers. And when I look at it as this kind of movement, football's got three phases of the game: offense, defense, special teams. For us to succeed, we have to recognize we have three phases of the game of equal opportunity. First is the pipeline. To that, we have to give credit to Bill Walsh, in particular, for creating the fellowship program, recruiting from the HBCUs, and creating a coaching tree that created enormous diversity in the league. Second is the leveling the playing field. And the leveling the playing field is a Rooney Rule, and the champions behind it. Let's start with John Wooten on that, and Harry Carson and Kellen Winslow when we got started, and so many others who've had to foster and develop, including Rod Graves' leadership today, and Tony Dungy, and so many others that have helped us fight for a level playing field. The third phase, the phase that I feel like we're just getting started on, is what I'll call the cultural change phase, where you change the DNA of an organization, and here it's 32 clubs in the league office, to change the DNA so that diversity and merit-based decision-making, free of bias, is what champions are made of, is what happens. And that's the phase that I think we're still struggling with, and we're just, in a lot of ways, just getting started with. And I think with Rod leading the way right now, I feel like we are at the beginning of that third phase. So I ask all of you to join Fritz Pollard Alliance in helping us achieve full equal opportunity by being successful in all three phases: the pipeline, which is strong, the leveling the playing field, which we could not ask more than we've gotten out of the league office, and now the cultural change. Ultimately, that is going to reside on the 32 owners, but all of us in the NFL community can be part of making that a reality. So thank you again.
He's a visionary. Cyrus Mary, he certainly is. And I want to tell you something else. The Pro Football Hall of Fame recently agreed to partner with the Black College Football Hall of Fame. An agreement that includes plans to enhance the Black College Football Hall of Fame inside of the facility of the Pro Football Hall of Fame in Canton, Ohio. And the gentleman charged with overseeing that process is here tonight. And I would like to invite him to the stage. Repeatedly, Fritz Pollard was posthumously enshrined in the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 2005. Representing the Hall is the Chief Relationship Officer of the Pro Football Hall of Fame, Mr. Adrian Allison. Welcome.
So first, it is mostly an honor to be here. I was here last week. Yeah, you get it. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I know y'all was looking at me, what is this guy talking about? Yeah, we see, here we go. Yeah, here we go. Here we go, yeah. So we made the 3-hour trek. My wife, Krista, and I, and our 2 daughters who are Ohio State students, we said we were going to come out and get a victory in Michigan and have a great 3-hour car ride home. Instead, we lost. We got stuck in a parking lot for 2 hours. And then it whited out all the way back to Ohio, right? And then Mr. Lee said, come on back to Detroit next week. Like, oh my goodness, wow. But I came, you know what? And I came because it's just truly a privilege to be here and representing the Pro Football Hall of Fame, because we are indeed aligned in so many of what all of us are trying to accomplish. And again, I'm Adrian Allison. I'm the Chief Relationship Officer at the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and our mission is to honor the heroes of the game, to preserve its history, to promote its values, and to celebrate excellence everywhere. And excellence is being celebrated here tonight, and we want to pay our tributes to Wallace Triplett, to Willie Horton, and to the Detroit Lions, and then, of course, to our Pro Football Hall of Famer, Mr. Pollard, because he, as Coach Shell said, is forever memorialized at the Pro Football Hall of Fame in Canton. I want to just quickly say this, and I appreciate the notion that one of the ways that we, the Hall of Fame, are committed to all of this work is by bringing the Black College Football Hall of Fame, which Coach Shell is a part of, and many other great players. The fact of the matter is like Coach Pollard's story, those stories need to be told to the world. They are trailblazers who did not have the chance to go to traditionally white schools, but made it nonetheless to the highest peak in professional football through HBCUs. And it is our privilege and honor to be able to partner with them to help memorialize their stories in Canton. And so I look forward to having you all come and join us in Canton as we start the process of building what we are hoping to be a $3 to $5 million museum inside of our museum to honor the great heroes of the game. Thank you. I will end too with the resolution. I will not read it all, but I will just simply say that it is, therefore, be it resolved that the Pro Football Hall of Fame, in conjunction with the Fritz Pollard Alliance Foundation, celebrates the pro football career and the extraordinary life of Mr. Frederick Douglass Fritz Pollard in his 100 years after becoming the first African-American head coach in NFL history. This is presented on behalf of the Board of Trustees of the Pro Football Hall of Fame, signed by our president, Mr. Jim Porter. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for making the trek back here to Michigan. And I'm a Spartan, but I was cheering for that win. We needed it for the whole state. But I wore red today. Is that a yellow tie he's wearing? I think he converted in 1 week. Once again, everyone, let's give a round of applause to Adrian Allison for coming all the way from Ohio to spend the evening with us tonight. We thank you, and I've actually never been to the Hall of Fame in Canton, Ohio, but clearly there's many reasons that we all should. Yes, thank you very much. Now I know I've got someone on the inside. Our next speaker has a very unique perspective in the world of sports. He worked as an agent for many years and helped guide the careers of numerous athletes, including Isaiah Thomas, Steve Smith, fellow Spartan as well, Magic Johnson, another Spartan, Glenn Robinson, and others. Let's welcome to the stage Dr. Charles Tucker.
Good afternoon. First of all, I'm very inspired. Giving honor to God first. And God is being God, and we all need him at this day and time. And what the Reverend said earlier about those young boys that was, the school district problem. I had an incident myself by being a clinical psychologist that I was counseling 2 kids in therapy session 3 days ago, and both of them is dead now. So it is serious out here. So when I see a group like this come together, I'm very inspired. For all you people out here is very important. And to see you support certain activities mean that you're doing the right thing to help the cause of the things that is going on now in this society. But I'm somewhat honored to be here and a privilege to be among so many great people. And I know a lot of people by face. I know most of you by name. So it makes me feel pretty good. It's an honor for me. And it's a pleasure for me to talk about somebody that have been a pioneer and a trailblazer, and with multiple careers that this person had. And also he was very intelligent and served with dignity, and he looked good. But that's enough about myself. But on a serious note, I'm here today just to make a few comments about Mr. Pollard and his contribution as a pioneer for African American and also for the cause of all Americans. And he justified his space on this earth because of his contribution. And I think all of you here is doing the same thing by being here supporting you justify a space on Earth by contributing to a cause such as this. And if I listen to some of the earlier speakers, his contribution is still being celebrated because you just named, NFL just named the diversity program after him. And so he still is serving us after 100 years. And that is great. But because of his accomplishment, one of his professions was a sport agent. And because of that, I was able to learn from that. He paved the road. Because the road is not easy, you know. And I have went to certain trials doing this type of stuff. It's not my only job, I'm glad of that. But I asked for $100 million 25 years ago for a player, and I ended up having crosses burnt on my door, had to change my flight 100 times a day to go into a certain city because they were waiting on me. And I don't think it was all race, it was part of business. But these are the kind of things that you go through. I remember some of the Lions people might remember. Buffalo, when I set Thurman Thomas out, that's closed the city down because that's all they got at those days in Buffalo was the Bills. So I get off, I flew in, and the police came on the plane and say, "Is Charles Tucker on the plane?" So I didn't say anything, you know. Yeah, I think he over there. But they taken me off the plane because there was a mob out there waiting in the airport, and they had to take me down the side of the airplane and taking me out. And then in Milwaukee, they put a cross with blood on my door. So from that time on, I did everything from at home. But I have to look at it being positive. It wasn't all because of me. It was just part of business, but half of it was because the fact that I was a minority and doing those type of things. But so I give honor to our person tonight, our special person, for giving me that, providing me that opportunity to have a successful career as a sport agency. It gave me an opportunity to deal with people like Carl Banks, Steve Smith, Thurman Thomas, Magic Johnson, of course. I don't look at him as a real client because I had him ever since he was 12 because he was a bad boy. So I was counseling him, so that's how that came about. And I also, John Gray, I talked to Magic this morning. I talked to Steve Smith, as I mentioned to you. I talked to Oscar Robertson, and Mr. Horton, you might can identify with this. Oscar Robertson, everybody in here in sports have heard of the Oscar Robertson lawsuit. That lawsuit caused us to be able to make the type of money that players were able to make now. And Oscar Robertson, I represent him, and I spoke with him this morning. He thought it was a great cause, what you guys is doing. And Magic told me to tell you, John, and Steve, and John, you talked to Steve anyway because he's doing some business with you. So he told me congratulations on putting that together. And they'll give you any support that you want. And one of my other clients, I think he's here, Andre Rison, just got nominated, I think, to the Hall of Fame. Andre, stand up, Andre Rison, yeah. And Motine Cleve, who worked with one of you, one of the big company here also. But in closing, I would like to congratulate the Fords, the Lions, for making an impact on diversity like you have. And this is important because we definitely need it. And I like to be part of this new diversity because this new diversity is paying these coaches hundreds of $millions. And so, in closing, I just like to thank Mr. Pollard for being a role model for me and for others. Thank you.
Dr. Tucker. It's a smooth brother right there, right? Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for a little comic relief, but also sharing with us some history and some of your life experiences, which were pretty moving. Thank you so much. How's everybody doing? I mean, this evening might go a little longer than you were expecting, but it's worth it, isn't it? I mean, we wouldn't have heard some of these stories and some of this perspective, which we'll all be able to take away with us. As we heard earlier this evening, Mr. Pollard started the first black investment company in Chicago, representing the finance sector as the managing director of Loop Capital Markets, an African-American-owned full-service investment bank, brokerage, and advisory firm, also located in Chicago. And here is Fred Prime III. He has some remarks for us now.
Thank you. What an inspirational event, really. It's an honor to be asked to participate. I'd like to start by thanking the Fritz Pollard Alliance Foundation for the opportunity to share a few words about a truly dynamic African-American pioneer. As Rhonda said, I'm Fred Prime, a managing director with Loop Capital Markets. We're an African-American-owned investment banking and financial services firm. As we have seen, Fritz Pollard achieved many firsts throughout his career, in academics, on the gridiron, and in business. One of those firsts that's fairly lesser known was that he founded what is recognized as the first African-American-owned investment firm. Now, if you will, imagine it's 1922. Institutionalized racism is the standard. The American economy is transferring from a traditional economy to a free market economy. Barriers to entry for African Americans in business and access to capital are significant. The Great Migration of African Americans from the South to the North and Midwest is well underway. In this environment, and presciently, just before a 6-year bull run in the stock market, recognizing the need for an investment firm to service his community, Fritz Pollard founded F.D. Pollard and Company. Dr. Martin Luther King said, "Faith is taking the first step without seeing the whole staircase." On taking his first step on that staircase that would lead to the growth of African American financial services firms and the participation of African Americans in the business of finance. That progress saw many milestones for African Americans, including the first brokers and brokerage firm to be licensed by our national regulatory body in 1949, the first African American brokerage firm with a seat on the New York Stock Exchange in 1971, to Reverend Jackson's Wall Street Project in 1996. Today, we have African American investment firms and professionals that have participated in trillions in financings, managed billions in assets, and engage at every level in the financial services space. Now, while we as African American-owned investment firms continue to provide value to our clients and grow our businesses, we certainly recognize that progress does not occur in a vacuum and that pioneers like Fritz Pollard helped pave our way. Thank you.
Thank you. Fred Prime III, thank you so much for being here and being a part of this event tonight. Of course, we are here to honor and celebrate the legacy of Fritz Pollard, and we are absolutely doing that. And what better way to gain even greater insight on the man himself than by hearing from someone with a firm grasp of what he stood for. Our next speaker served as the Board of Governors at Wayne State University for 7 years, and he is here this evening on behalf of the Pollard family. Let's welcome the cousin of Fritz Pollard, Mr. Gary Pollard.
Good evening. Well, I can't get to Fritz unless I talk about my grandfather, his cousin. My grandfather was 1 year older than Fritz. And my grandfather talked about Fritz in this way. He would say, you know, my cousin and I went into World War I, the big war, together. They did. I don't know if they served together in the French theater or not, but my grandfather was very, very proud that Fritz served in the Army. Now, he would say that before he ever said, you know, he was the first black coach in the National Football League. But when he first mentioned Fritz, I was about 10. And watching football at that time, I'd watch it, but I wouldn't see a black coach anywhere. So I didn't know, quite frankly, what had happened. My grandfather would mention Fritz. He would talk about him being a big businessman. He also talked about his son, Fritz Jr. He'd say, well, you know, Jr. went on to run in the Olympics. 1936, he won the bronze medal. Showed Hitler that he wasn't the best. Okay. That's fine. What makes it relevant is today. The same problems, same struggle, the same kind of people stepping up to the plate and doing what's necessary. When I think that it was only 55 years after slavery was abolished that Fritz actually came into his own. In the middle of a pandemic, coming out of a war, the Treaty of Versailles, the ink wasn't even dry yet before nearly 400,000 black troops came back. But the thing was, having seen what was going on overseas, they weren't putting up with it. So by the time 1919 came around, it was called the Red Summer, the year of the Red Summer. There were riots. You don't hear about them, but you can read about them. There were lynchings all over the place, and the KKK was ramped up. Wow. And in the meantime, everything you heard about Fritz, he was doing this. In the midst of that, absolutely incredible. And as I look around this room, there are people, there are individuals, I'm not going to say their names because I get in trouble, but they're still doing the heavy lifting today without the notoriety. I'm going to mention just one name because I feel compelled. I lived in Northwest Detroit where I attended Mumford High School. And in the morning, there's 3 or 4 of us that would meet up and we'd walk to school together. That gentleman right there with the cane would be out walking in the morning, Willie Horton. he inspired a generation. He truly inspired a generation. That's why I spent lots of money buying bleacher $1 tickets. Okay. I'd go and watch a double hitter at night for $1. I tell my kids that day, oh, Dad, get out of here. So I feel like my grandfather telling me about Fritz. It couldn't be real. I just want to say this. I'm proud to be a Pollard. There are other famous Pollards, by the way. We'll talk about that another time, perhaps. But on behalf of Fritz's children, his grandchildren, his great-grandchildren, his children, Fritz Jr., Gwendolyn, Leslie, and Eleanor, I want to say thank you for this alliance and this foundation. God bless you and good luck.
Thank you so much for being here tonight. Another round of applause for Gary Pollard. I'd like to get to a short video, and this video is from civil rights legend, the Reverend Jesse Jackson.
Fritz Pollard, 100 years later, first African American to play for Brown University. All American, halfback and quarterback, if you will. And he traveled the country. He could not sit with white teammates on the train, had to sit in the back, which he resented very much. As an All-American from Brown, helped start the NFL, one of the early NFL players, and first African-American coach at that time. In addition to being All-American football player and a quarterback, he led his team to the Rose Bowl. First black player in the Rose Bowl was Pollard. Also, he had the disposition about being an agent. The agent for Paul Robeson and for Lena Horne. He was a Renaissance man, found a newspaper, was a protester, freedom fighter. We honor him tonight, we honor the best in ourselves. Small one in America does not know much about Fritz Pollard. They should know about him. He represents the best in all of us.
And we thank Reverend Jesse Jackson, who is a frequent visitor here in the city of Detroit, so I'm almost amazed that he is not here tonight. But we thank him for his love of our city and for lending his words tonight. Since 1909, the NAACP has worked to ensure equal access to social, educational, political, and economic advancement of all people. The organization's impact is enduring, and it will remain a pillar in the fight to rid society of racial hatred and racial discrimination. And here on behalf of the organization is the national president and a Detroit native. It's one of our own, Mr. Derek Johnson.
You know, when I was asked if I would attend this ceremony because the Detroit Lions had won, I said absolutely, because I'm a Lions fan. And I finally had an opportunity, I thought, to tell my Chicago Bulls fans that we won. But I think we have won because Detroit is being honored because of diversity. And that is winning. And that's the most important, winning. I am a Detroit native, and I grew up in the shadows of Tiger Stadium. And to know Willie Horton was going to be honored, for me, a young kid who was skilled in the art of sneaking into the baseball stadium, this was a great thing. Between Willie Horton and Dusty Baker, we could see people on the field that was not playing the game like Lou Whitaker and others, but actually managing the game and being part of the decision-making. The story of Fritz Pollard is something I had not heard of until last year in the spring. One of the board members of the Fritz Pollard Alliance Foundation, Kyle Bowser, also runs our Hollywood office. and he's a former executive in the entertainment industry, and he said, we're going to partner with the NFL to feature a film about Fritz Pollard. It is, for those who ride, you know, Kyle always have big ideas. I say, Kyle, I've never heard of Fritz Pollard, and why would the NFL want to partner with us around a guy we have never heard of? And he showed me the film. And I was like, wow. How many other stories have not been told? Wow. What a Renaissance man he was. Wow. What if we really partnered and started telling these untold stories? NAACP created 112 years ago. First fight was around anti-lynching. Our second fight was around the release of a film, Birth of a Nation. Because our founding fathers and mothers realized that how we are projected on the screen will be how we will be treated in public policy. How we show up on the field inspire young people to understand what's possible. And the narratives that we share presents opportunities for more creative individuals, not because of their physical abilities, but their intellectual wherewithal to navigate and pull people together. There are three things in this country during all of the racial strife that pull people together. That's food. We love each other's food. That's music. And it's sports. Here's an opportunity through this alliance, through this foundation, through this recognition that we can begin to cut through the divide, the polarization that we are seeing across the country, and begin to allow people to understand the value of being one another's neighbor. And that's the beautiful thing about the Fritz Pollard story. That's the beautiful thing about this alliance, and that's the beautiful opportunity that we're sitting in. And to John Gray, I want to thank you for keeping Jesse Jackson alive and active. And I talk to Reverend Jackson about once a week when I see him on the screen, and some days are better than others. He knows the history. He appreciates the story and the possibilities of narrative so that we may have hope. The story of Fritz Pollard is a story of hope, of what's possible. When others say you cannot do, you still push forward anyway, because as the speaker said earlier, that the first step of faith is taking a step without seeing the stairway. I am still a Detroit Lions fan, and I'm taking steps, and I want to see a championship. I want to thank you, Rod, and all of you who celebrate this legacy, because if we allow it to die, we will suffocate a dream of a young person yet unborn. Here's our opportunity to bring people together through our narrative of how, when we fight together and we stick together, we can, in fact, create a democracy that our children can be proud of. Thank you all very much.
Thank you so much to Jared Johnson for coming home. Appreciate your remarks on behalf of the NAACP. Our next speaker has guided the National Football League to become not only the most popular sport in the country, but the most profitable sport. Commissioner Roger Goodell has provided outstanding leadership since his tenure began as NFL Commissioner in 2006. Due to pressing issues, Mr. Goodell could not be here tonight, but he did send us this video and message.
Good evening. I'm sorry I can't be with you tonight, but I am with you in spirit as you celebrate the legacy of Fritz Pollard. First, allow me to thank the Fritz Pollard Alliance for your advocacy in promoting diversity, equity, and inclusion in sports. Your presence and social consciousness have made an impact in the National Football League. We look forward to continuing our long-standing relationship as we collaborate in the best interest of the game. Fritz Pollard cleared a path for those who followed as the first black quarterback and head coach in the NFL. He was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 2005 And tonight, we are proud to celebrate his legacy as the Fritz Pollard Alliance recognizes Wally Triplett, the first African-American player drafted by the Detroit Lions, the legendary Detroit Tiger Willie Horton, and the Detroit Lions, who have shown in word and in practice their commitment to diversity. Congratulations to Sheila Hamp, Rod Wood, and the entire Lions organization as the recipient of the Diversity and Management Award. Through your hiring of diverse leaders such as Brad Holmes, Aaron Glenn, and Anthony Lynn, you are providing important leadership in building a strong foundation through diversity, and the best is yet to come. I applaud the Fritz Pollard Alliance and its Executive Director, Rod Graves, with the support of Larry Lee, Director of Development, for their leadership and steadfast advocacy for diversity. Thank you, and enjoy the evening.
As I mentioned at the top of the program, we are here tonight to honor two individuals who personify the legacy of Fritz Pollard. They're compassionate sports pioneers. They're the ones who opened the door to opportunity for others to follow. We owe these individuals a debt of gratitude, and it is important that we do so at this time and in this setting. Our first honoree is the recipient of the Humanitarian Award, and that award goes to Mr. Willie Horton. Please turn your attention to the screen for a short video.
An 18-year Major League veteran as an outfielder and designated hitter, Willie Horton played 14 seasons in Detroit. He racked up nearly 2,000 hits and 325 home runs in his illustrious on-field baseball career. But it was always about more than just the game. During the 1967 Detroit Rebellion, Horton, still wearing his Tigers uniform, walked into the neighborhoods that were in chaos, trying to see if there was any way he could help. And through the years, the Tigers executive has been dedicated to the community, especially young people, like the ones he's mentored at his alma mater, Northwestern High.
I'm telling you, young people, don't let nobody take your dreams or think about your life.
Ongoing support of the Detroit Police Athletic League, PAL, and a scholarship created in his name are just a few of the countless community connections. And how cool is this? There's a Willie Horton Drive in his childhood neighborhood.
Dad, your family, your children, your grandchildren, your nieces and nephews, your cousins, and your wife, we are truly proud of you.
We truly are. We love you, Willie Horton. Here to present the Humanitarian Award to Willie Horton is former Detroit Tiger and current Sports Detroit studio analyst, Mr. Craig Monroe.
Guys, I've never got a chance to meet Miss Rhonda Walker, so I want to say it's an honor, it's a pleasure to meet you. Good evening. Good evening. It's a tremendous honor to join you guys tonight. This is an historic night. And I want to thank the Fritz Pollard Alliance for its leadership in diversity, advocacy in sports, especially in the NFL. I also want to take the time to salute the Fritz Pollard, to Fritz Pollard, a pioneer, a legend, upon whose shoulders we proudly stand. Among the many dignitaries in the room, we're blessed to have a living legend with us tonight, a hometown hero, who has spent his life committed to diversity, inclusion, equity, a World Series champion, who has mentored future leaders on and off the baseball field, a man who I affectionately call Pops. For generations, Willie Horton has led a life dedication to those around him, dedicated to lifting up others and creating opportunities for those who follow. As the first African-American serving as a special assistant to the executive vice president, baseball operation general manager, Pops continued to serve the Detroit Tigers in Major League Baseball with passionate voice, advocating for diversity and inclusion at all levels. I would like to say to Pops, thank you. Thank you for believing in me when I didn't always believe in myself. Thank you for pushing me to be the best, not only player, but a man, better husband, a better father. Today, I want to say thank you for all that you've done for me. And at this moment, I would also like to ask Rod Graves and also John Graves to come up and join me, please. Thank you, sir. How are you? Thank you. Guys, it is my great honor to present the 2021 Fritz Pollard Alliance Foundation Humanitarian Award to 18-year Major League great, Detroit Tigers legend, and hometown hero, my pops, Mr. Willie Horton. Oh.
First. Yeah. Go ahead. Speak. Go ahead.
Boy, thank you. First of all, I'd like to give thanks to the good Lord who held in my life, make it possible for me to be here tonight. I'd like to, it also is an honor for me to receive this award on the behalf of the organization, the foundation. But I'm very touched. I'm learning things this evening and last night as I read the history of this man. And bro, I got on my knees and asked God, forgive me. Because the road he traveled, I've been through some of them roads. But you know, I told him, forgive me, because I shouldn't have known this. I'd like to thank this organization, anything I can do to work with you guys in the diversified program for the athletes in the minority positions, being an exec, and seeing more of color, not on the baseline, but the leader as a manager in the dugout. I was so proud to see Dusty Baker back this year. This man is so unreal. And we got many others out there that should be in them seats. This man up here, John Gray, and what he do for this town and this state, and when he's traveled, he take this state with him. I go places behind him sometime. I hear some of the things they talk about this man, how he loved this state. And be out here see my favorite sitting out there, that Miss Jones, she got married on me. I think, you know, it's just unfortunate. I've been married for 60 years, but I would ask that lady to be my wife because she got the heart of people. You know, I'm with my son. Hear him speak a while ago, I was very emotional. But as I look around here and see this foundation, it's the trailblazer of this man, Chris Fitz. When I say his name, I get touched because the road he traveled way before Jackie Robinson. And that's why I told our commission in baseball, for many years we need to educate the pyramid of pain. Pyramid of pain don't bring hardship, it brings love and hope. Learn from Jackie Robinson down to Willie Mays and other great, then you appreciate Jackie Robinson more and educate our kids more about this man. So I had this young man sitting behind me with the Lions' first draft job. I've been wanting to meet him for many years. But he's been with me along the road I've been traveling because I take the pain of this city. And how you live this, I learned to live through the fans. I call my extended family. And that's what this foundation is about. I got the note in my pocket about my speech, but I sat out to hear all these other speakers, and they don't say everything I was going to say. Because it's good when you amongst people, family, together is what we all about. I always say when we come to this world, God gave us $1 million out of mind. You can do anything in this world you want. Just set your mind to it. And I tell older people today, don't let that mind take you away from here. Don't get involved in things you have no control over. Try to take care of home. In our community, I have a concern because we go in our community and build things and leave. First, we got to learn how to educate our community, what we putting in their community, find out what they're eating first. That's what family is about. Never go in a man's home and tell him about his business until you find out how you feed his children. And that's what we all about, this foundation about. I don't know, I'm 79 years old now. I got a few more years of hope. But I'm going to give my heart and soul to try to do anything I can to help this organization grow. You know, receiving this award has got to put that at the top of the list because it gave me knowledge I didn't have. It brought me to my knees last night. And that's the God's truth. And you know, you got to have things. These hear the young men get up and speak about Willie Horton. Oh man, I get chills. And that's what I said, that statue out there in the Co-Merkins Palace. It represents you guys. You guys in that have to let me come in your backyard, your playground, your work site to be part of your life. Not part of your life, you made me part of your family. And that's what I feel when I travel. And that's what I take this spirit, and I appreciate tonight receiving this and thank my son back here, Craig. Oh, man. The story with him, we got him from Texas. And we went out there, we walked, we talked. He said he wanted to go out and hit. We had a bucket of balls. He said, who's going to throw? I said, nobody going to throw. What I'm going to do? I said, I'm going to see you hit the balls. I made him to go back and identify himself, who he are. Because sometimes in professional sports, we forget the ability that God gave each every athlete. Learn to grow to his own ability. I learned him to get back playing in the backyard with his dad. Then he went off and I called Dave DeBrassi. I said, he's ready to play now. I went out there on the field with him. He's the one throw. I said, well, we going to pick him up. All your balls will be right in one area because you're doing things what you can do now, not what Willie Horton wants you to do. And that's what I congratulated him, his position with Valley Sports. I'm going to say Fox Sports, but it's Valley Sports now. I'm sorry about that. But I'm so proud of this young man. And our organization, they need somebody to go and manage somewhere, a coach. He got the knowledge. He understands the game. He understands people. Because coaching is more than just telling a person what to do. You got to put your arm around them sometime. How your mom, how your dad, how your girlfriend doing. That's what growth, that's what development is. That's how you keep an adult job as football players, hockey players, baseball players. That's how you keep the little boy in you when you hug a person and say, how you doing, son? And that's all I do. They say, what you tell him? I don't tell him nothing. I make him feel he at home because he already know how to play. You know, they will never sign him or no other kid if he couldn't play. But anyway, in closing, I'd like to say thank you. It's something that I will cherish from the bottom of my heart. I'd like to say, you people out there, my family, my extended family, God bless you.
Larry. ahead.
Let's give another round of applause for Willie Horton. I just feel so fortunate to be here tonight. This is just so moving and incredible. At this time, we're going to move to our next award recipient. We are honoring Wallace Triplett posthumously with our Trailblazer Award. Please take a look at the video.
Wallace, Wally Triplett, was Penn State's first African-American starter in 1945. The halfback earned the first varsity letter by an African-American. His team made headlines when it united, saying it would not play a game against Miami in the segregated South. Earlier, Miami had withdrawn an acceptance offer to Triplett when they learned he was black.
And so when it came time for Penn Staters to look in the campus and the feeling on the campus and the feeling of the ballparks was that if we all don't play, none of us play.
In 1948, Triplett and teammate Denny Hogarth integrated the Cotton Bowl. Triplett caught the game-time touchdown in Penn State's 13-13 draw with SMU. In 2017, he was inducted into the Cotton Bowl Hall of Fame. After he received his degree in physical education, Triplett was drafted by the Detroit Lions in the 19th round of the 1949 NFL Draft. It was not unusual for blacks to be on NFL rosters, but Triplett was the first to step into a uniform and onto the field. He died in November 2018 at age 92. The Lions announced the news and said, as the first African American to be drafted and play in the NFL, Wally is one of the true trailblazers in American sports history. He resides among the great men who helped reshape the game as they faced the challenges of segregation and discrimination.
Here to introduce is Mrs. Ayanna Triplett McConnell, the granddaughter of Wally Triplett. Is former All-Pro Detroit Lions player and current color analyst for the Lions on 97.1 The Ticket. I was like, is Lomas Brown here? I didn't see you hiding over there. Lomas Brown!
How's everyone out there tonight? Good, good. Well, first of all, I'd like to thank the Fritz Pollard Alliance for having me here today. It's just such an honor to be here to represent not only the Detroit Lions, but represent Wallace Triplett. Just a brief history on him. He, in 1921, he was selected as he was the head coach. He was selected as the head coach, as the first black quarterback and running. I'm sorry, I'm reading the wrong thing. Forgive me. Okay. All right. The Fritz Pollard Alliance will recognize Wallace Triplett, the first African-American drafted player to play for the Detroit Lions and in the NFL. Triplett was drafted in 1949 and began his professional career for the Detroit Lions in 1950. He held the NFL record for 294 yards on special teams. That's pretty good. Held that record for 44 years. So that's just a great accomplishment. Just real briefly, just talking about a great guy like that, I only heard of Wallace Triplett. Again, being a Lions alumni, and him being a Lions alumni, you just hear about some of the things that he did in his career, some of the paths that he trailed. It was just an honor to see some of the things that he did off of the field. That's the thing that, as a former player, we take great pride in what these guys do after they get off the field. He was just a great ambassador for the NFL. He's a great ambassador for the Detroit Lions. So without further ado, Ayanna, she's here. I'd like to introduce his granddaughter, Ayanna McConnell.
Good evening. My name is Ayanna Triplet McConnell, and I am ecstatic to be here on behalf of the Triplet family. I wondered what I would share with you tonight, and I encourage you to get to know my grandfather by looking him up on your own. I don't want to give too much away about his life and his legend, but I wanted to share some stories that maybe you wouldn't be able to find on Wikipedia or on the internet. My grandfather was a native of Cheltenham, which is a suburb of Philadelphia, although you wouldn't know that because he loved Detroit so much. In fact, he and his wife, Leonore, lived here for over 60 years. He was an entrepreneur before that was even a notion. After the football career, he stayed here and worked at Chrysler. He was an insurance man. He was someone who owned neighborhood stores and apartment buildings, and he was a member of his block association. He was a person who cared about who his children went to school with. And so a couple of things that I just want to impart on you on behalf of the Triplet family and lessons that I learned from my grandfather, Mr. Wallace Triplet. One is to listen. Listen to the people in your family. Listen to the stories, not just of the legends, but of the elders in your family. I loved listening to the stories of my grandfather, who was the most humble man I've ever met. It took me going to Happy Valley to understand the impact and influence he had, even at Penn State and then eventually in the NFL. So please listen to the people around you, especially your elders. Learn from each other. My grandfather stayed curious, and he would say that he was richer for all of the people that he connected with and got to know throughout his entire life. So please learn from those around you. And then even more importantly, lift up the younger generation. My grandfather and his brothers didn't have a lot of means, but they would put their pennies and dollars together to give a scholarship every year to a high school student at Cheltenham High School. And I learned from that. I've been doing D&I work in higher education for about 20 years now, and so I'm carrying the torch on behalf of the Triplet family, but his oldest daughter, Nancy, is out here in the audience, and you can ask her about some more stories about how her dad really influenced our whole family. But just on behalf of Mr. Wallace Triplet, thank you so much for honoring him. We appreciate you and express our gratitude. Thank you.
And I learned about Wally Triplet growing up. My dad really admired your grandfather, and I honestly wish my dad is still living, but I wish that he could be here tonight. He actually is in Florida golfing. All right, so we are moving along with our program. The Detroit Lions, our beloved Detroit Lions, and I am a lifelong Detroit Lions fan. It's one of the oldest in the National Football League. It has one of the most loyal fan bases in all of sports, and 15 Pro Football Hall of Famers once played for this storied franchise. Let's turn our attention to the screen for more.
When the Detroit Lions announced that they had hired Brad Holmes to become the team's new executive vice president and general manager, it received rave reviews. Holmes has been applauded for his strategic approach to scouting and analytics. and the addition of defensive coordinator Aaron Glenn and offensive coordinator Anthony Lynn only enhanced the possibilities and made the Lions a standard bearer in the area of diversity, equity, and inclusion in the management ranks of NFL teams. And in the area of social justice and economic inequalities, the Lions have deepened their commitment to playing a more active role towards a more equitable society. Their Inspire the Change Fund has distributed nearly $500,000 in 20 and 21 and more than $1.5 million since its start in 2018. Congratulations.
And here to introduce the Diversity in Management Award is former Detroit Lion and so many other roles within the Lions organization and with the Fritz Pollard Alliance, which is who I learned all about Fritz Pollard from, Larry Lee.
Thank you. I'd be remiss if I didn't say hello or acknowledge the wind beneath my wings, my wife, Therese, my best friend. Secondly, I want you guys to be aware that starting in January, we are kicking off the Fritz Pollard Alliance podcast. And it's going to be a national deal. And we have several people that we want to line up and have included. To begin with you, Brad, we'd like you to be our first guest on. I'll have my people call your people, and we'll put it together if it's okay. Thirdly, I'd like to introduce the Detroit Lions. I have a special place in my heart for the Detroit Lions. I was drafted by the Detroit Lions. I played 5 years with the Detroit Lions. I went on to the Dolphins and the Broncos, but after my playing career, I was in the front office for 9 years. And we're honoring the Lions tonight for diversity, but quiet as it's kept, the Lions have had some diversity in the organization. When I talk about a guy named Michael Hugh, when I talk about a guy named Larry Lee, when I talk about a guy Kevin Warren, who is actually now the Big Ten commissioner, when I talk about Martin Mayhew. So the Lions have had some diversity. But I want to say that this past offseason, Rod took it to another step, Rod Wood. We had a couple of good conversations, and he assured me that was one of the things first and foremost in the hiring process, and he assured me that was Sheila's mindset as well, and true to their word, they did that. So we felt compelled to honor them this evening, and rightfully so. So without further ado, accepting the Diversity in Management Award on behalf of the Detroit Lions is current owner and chairman, Sheila Hamp, and secondly, President and CEO, Mr. Rod Wood.
All right, good evening. I'm going to say a few things and hand it off to Sheila and thank Larry for the kind words in the introduction and all the conversations we had during our search process. I also want to recognize Rod Graves, who was part of our external advisors, and I talked to Rod throughout the search process. We, as a league, can definitely do better, as has been cited, And I can only control the Detroit Lions, so we focused on what we could do to do better in our hiring process. We learned a lot when we hired our last head coach and general manager, and we chose to expand our searches much more broadly this time and include a lot more diversity in our candidates. And we landed on some great individuals. Brad Holmes, who you saw, stand up, Brad, you can. Our general manager. And then not pictured in the video is Ray Agnew, who's over here, who's our assistant general manager. Great former NFL player, first-round draft pick. So we're benefiting from diversity that's been added to the organization. We continue to look forward to it. One of the things that was mentioned in the video when Mr. Rooney was talking was the pipeline, and I think that's one of the things that's incumbent upon us to supply future candidates. So we've done that in adding 2 coordinators to the team, in addition to Deuce Saley, who's our assistant head coach. So hopefully one or all of those guys will end up as a head coach in the future and take it from 3 to 6 to 10 diverse candidates as head coaches. There's been a lot said tonight about the divided society, what happened in Oxford this week. We're going to do everything we can to recognize that tragedy on Sunday at our game. But I would tell you, if you haven't had an opportunity to be in a professional sport locker room, if you could be in a locker room and understand how we can get along together, society would be better off if we were all that way. So there is hope, I promise you. So, Sheila?
I better lower this. Just a little. I just want to add my thanks to the Fritz Pollard Alliance. This is really a terrific honor, and we are so really pleased to be recognized for our work in creating a diverse football organization. As Rod mentioned, diversity was a key driver in our search for our general manager, Brad Holmes, and our coach, Dan Campbell, and it was also for both of them as they created their staffs. And for us, it goes beyond football. Our goal is for the entire organization. And we're working to evolve our organizational mission statement to ensure we are living this truth every day while moving forward. While not finalized, our new mission statement will read something like this. We believe the highest performance comes when we build a workplace that's truly equitable, transparent, integrated, and open. Diversity is the ultimate competitive advantage. And we strive to build a place where we can celebrate our work, our team, and our wins. We say one team, one pride. So thank you so much for this recognition. It means a great deal to us as we move to rebuild the Detroit Lions. Thank you.
Let's hear it again for our Detroit Lions. We congratulate all of tonight's awardees and trust that this recognition will inspire someone in a real and meaningful way as we leave here today. A big part of tonight's event is also about exposing the history of Fritz Pollard to those of us who may have been unaware of his impact. It is especially relevant to our young people to know this history. They need to hear these kinds of stories of perseverance to help fuel their march through a world that is oftentimes challenging, but nonetheless incredibly rewarding if you go for it. This dialogue with our young people is important, and we look forward to encouraging them as they become contributing members of our society. So it is with that spirit that the Fritz Pollard Alliance has partnered with the Detroit Public Schools Community District, Wayne County Community College, and other schools to develop the Fritz Pollard Alliance Academy for student athletes. And the program is designed to teach our young people the business of sports and the various career options off the field, and student ambassadors will work with sports teams professionals who will personally direct and inspire these youth. This program is scheduled to launch in 2022. And here with us to provide some insight on the program is one of the partners, the board president of the Detroit Public Schools Community District, Angelique Peterson Mayberry.
Good evening. I promise that is me on the screen. Every time I'm somewhere and we have that picture from 2017, people question if that's me, but it's me. Let me just say thank you for the history lesson tonight. The history lesson that has taught us that these are the faces of the change makers whose shoulders we stand on. We are also experiencing tonight a pipeline. The creation of a pipeline because from history to present to future leads us to the conversation of young people. Thank you to the Fritz Pollard Alliance Foundation for understanding that an academy needed to be born. An academy that could teach our young people where they came from, who they are, and where the possibilities are for where they can go. Thank you for providing access, because oftentimes the difference between other students and ours is access. So thank you for allowing them access. Tonight, I'm excited. John and I have talked about this for a while, and so it's almost like for my women who are mothers, it's like being pregnant, right? And so you've gone through the labor pains, and now the baby is here. So to the students, the baby is here. We've worked really hard for you all to have this opportunity because for you, we understand that the work that we must do is now. You know, Tupac Shakur, the late great, has a book called The Rose That Grew from Concrete. Our young people are growing from concrete each and every day. We as advocates for young people are charged with breaking the concrete. It is our job to do that so that the ground in which they grow is more fertile than it was before we came on board. So to the young student athletes, and I say student athletes because I need them to understand that there's a difference from a student athlete to an athletic student. And the difference is you put academics first. And I'm proud to say that the students that we will introduce you to tonight have done that. Yes, they've been great in their sport, but they've also been great in the classroom. So yes, we are breaking the concrete, young people, and we are going to make the ground in which you grow more fertile. Lace up your boots. It's growing time, and we are here for the fertility. Thank you so much for allowing me the opportunity to come before you on behalf of Detroit Public Schools Community District. It has been a tough week, and I'd be lying to stand before you. We stand with our Oxford community, and just know that our young people are hurting. They are hurting. And if we think that mental health is something that does not affect our young people, we are not in reality. We can't say that they're our future. Our young people are our now. So it's time that we act like it. Thank you.
Angelique, thank you so much for your words on behalf of Detroit Public Schools Community District. Let's meet some of our student ambassadors that are present here with us. As I call your name, if you could please take the stage. Our first two student athletes represent Detroit Edison Public School Academy. So let's welcome our first, Derek Matlock. Derek is a junior who's on the football team. As evidenced by how tall he is. Next is Maya Brooks. Maya is a sophomore, and she is on the volleyball team. Representing University of Liggett High School is Oliver Service. Oliver plays two sports, baseball and football. He's connected to our honorees tonight. He is a junior at the University of Liggett. Our next two student athletes represent Cass Tech High School. Kelsey Hall. She is a sophomore who is on the golf team. And Masai Reddick. Masai is on the football team and is a junior. And finally, representing Martin Luther King Jr. High School is Dante Moore. Dante is on the football team. He is a junior. And Samuel Washington, he plays basketball and football, and he is a junior at Martin Luther King Jr. High School. Let's salute our student ambassadors. A huge round of applause.
By the way, Martin Luther King just won the state championship, and this is Mr. Football, our quarterback.
Baseball championship.
As we're letting the students go, perhaps the Martin Luther King Jr. High School students should remain on the stage. Didn't they have quite an accomplishment recently? And Leggett as well?
This is Mr. Football.
I'll let Angelique share.
Okay. I mean, I did go to King a couple of years ago. But I'm excited to say that the two that are before you right now are members of the varsity football team for Martin Luther King. They just secured on Ford Field last weekend the championship for Division III. They were 13-0 out of conference, 13-0 conference, and 12-1 out of conference. And Mr. Dante Moore here is Mr. Football Junior, and then Liggett. Let's hear about Liggett.
Let's hear about Liggett.
Okay.
And by the way, all of these individuals are 3-point. What's your GPA? 3.8. 4.0. 3.6. Truly student athletes. And Oliver Service just finished a successful season, as you know, Pops, Mr. Horton. He won the state championship, he and his team at the University of Liggett in baseball.
Scholar athletes is like what I like to call them. These could be future lions and tigers up here on the stage. Well, when you're a 4.0 student, John Graves can put you on the spot to say a few words, and you're miraculously ready.
He's a 4.0.
How y'all doing? Again, I'm Samuel Washington, go to King High School. I would like to say thank you for letting me be a part of this event. And Fitz Pollard, he was that guy. He was that guy. Thank you.
I just love our young people. They can sum it right up. Everybody else had to talk for 25 minutes. He's that guy. We all know what that means. John Graves is here, and you're our next speaker, I believe, if I'm following the script properly. our Chief Communications Officer of the Fritz Pollard Alliance, John Graves.
Thank you, thank you. I will probably be the last speaker, and I think everything has been said about Fritz Pollard. But one thing that longevity has taught me is, number one, to trust in God. And number two is to, when you're speaking publicly, to acknowledge your wife. Would my lovely wife please stand up? Iris Graves. And I thank her for giving me the freedom. She knows my background, having marched in the 10th grade, defiantly on Bloody Sunday in Selma, Alabama, chairing the Rainbow Push Automotive Project, as well as chairing the Citizenship Education Fund, co-chairing Dr. Ivory, the Chancellor's Roundtable. So all I need to talk about at the family table is another organization. So, but when I thought about Fritz Pollard, when Larry called me and it was confirmed with Rod, who, by the way, you know, when a guy's leading an organization is named Graves, it can't be too bad. So I was sucked in emotionally, and it has been a great journey. Rod, we thank you for your leadership. You're providing great leadership, and you've been a role model to many of them, to include Brad. And Larry, as an executive, we thank you. And I just want to go off script for one moment. Andre Rison was here earlier. Is he still here? He's a finalist for the Hall of Fame. And there he is. Oh, yeah. I wear these glasses for a reason. And Lobus Brown is here. He is a finalist for the Football Hall of Fame, a 7-time All-Pro player. And I know that certainly, I know it's on the agenda, is that he will go into the Ring of Honor with the Detroit Lions. Let's give Lobus an applause. So I will not hold you because I know you either have to go to the bathroom or you're getting hungry and you need to go home and eat. But I will, in all seriousness, say that Fritz Pollard, if you think it from, if I could juxtapose myself, being in 1921, 1 year after women, thanks to the 19th Amendment of the Constitution, were recognized with the same rights that men had, let alone an African American trying to coach a team that was all white. He was quite a man. And to see these young individuals here today, we know that our future is in good hands. I would like to thank our sponsors who've been enumerated on the wall there. But I also like to thank our volunteers and Alfreda Weathers and the videographer, Troy and Damon Audrey and others. Thank you for your work. And we could have made this a public event, but we were sensitive to COVID. And thanks to our sponsors, we were able to pay for this without going outside, without charging anyone here. And we just wanted to share that with the community. So thank you, and we'll look forward to seeing you soon. And remember the name Fritz Pollard. And we'd like to thank our honoree, Willie Horton. Thank you for being the role model that you are, Pops. And Greg, you're not the only one that calls them Pops. And that's out of respect because you've done so much in our community and you continue to shine the light on the humanity. And to Ayanna and your grandfather, he is truly a trailblazer. So we are so delighted and so honored that you are here with us to carry on his tradition. Into the Detroit Lions. You know, you can tell when you give someone an award by their response. When Larry made the call to the Lions, they said, okay, you know, we're honored. And you can see by their presence tonight that they did not take this as some Mickey Mouse award. they realizes the commitment to diversity and the seriousness of the world in which we live. So your presence today is indicative of what your organization is all about. So our hats off to the Detroit Lions, and we truly know under the leadership of Rod and Brad, and with the draft picks we have next year, the best is yet to come, and we look forward to it. Thank you.
Let's hear it once again for John.
No generation ever knows what history will ask of it. All we can ever know is whether we're ready when that moment arrives. And now history has delivered us to one of the most difficult moments America's ever faced. Are we ready? I believe we are.
We have a chance to change the course of history, to live the values we share: decency and fairness, justice and love.
This is not a partisan moment. This must be an American moment.
United by the fundamental belief that every human being is deserving of compassion, dignity, and respect.
America's at an inflection point, a time of real peril.
The road ahead is not easy, but we believe that all of us will stand together for a better future.
In this dark moment, we can find the light once more.
To the America we know is possible, the America we love.
It's time, let's change the world somehow. This is the moment, here and now. The promise of tomorrow speaks to me today. It guides my will and my passion. I can see the way. Here I am, I can reach for a star, and I won't fail, 'cause I believe in who we are.
This has been such an incredible evening, and it's been my honor to serve as your mistress of ceremonies. Tonight's festivities have shown us how enduring the human spirit can be when faced with adversity. It's shown us that there are endless possibilities for those who act selflessly, that being purposeful in the pursuit of equality is beneficial to all involved, but perhaps more than anything tonight has truly shown us how far we have come as a society. We are far from where we want to be, but we certainly know that we have overcome so much, and that because of people like Fritz Pollard, Willie Horton, Wally Triplett. I know we're saying Wallace Triplett, but I grew up knowing him as Wally, the Ford family, and countless others that have stood up for what is right and what is just. These fearless individuals carved out a lane for all of us to travel, to make our path just a bit easier, and for that we would like to show our appreciation just one more time with a round of applause for our honorees tonight. I'd like the final words to come from our executive director of the Fritz Pollard Alliance. Please welcome back to the stage Mr. Rob Graves. He's been tremendous.
Yeah, thank you. Promise not to hold you too long. And John, I promise you I'll cut my speech down next year. I just want to thank everyone for being here tonight. You know, some things just you can't cut short. And I think this was one of those evenings. And so really appreciate what was delivered here tonight. And Sheila and Steve, thank you so much for the work that you're doing, the great leadership. Rod, I've worked with you elbow to elbow. We know the challenges we have, but you, my friend, are up to the challenge. And I thank you. Brad, every time a young man sees you on the podium, they understand, and with that look in their eyes, that I have an opportunity to be a general manager someday. So just understand what your impact has. Ray, Mike, all of you who are here to support your organization, I salute you. Thanks again. Everyone have a safe trip. And for your community, we wish you healing. We offer you prayers. And we just thank you so much for your support of the Fritz Pollard Alliance. Thank you.